Okay, everyone. Hi. It's been a little while, but I might be back now. In today's Starship Comparisons video, we're going to be talking about the Risian Science Vessel. It's an interesting one. The way I personally think about this ship is that it's basically a slightly slower, higher statted scout ship that doesn't have radar flanking nor universal seating. So if that's what you're kind of thinking about, or just want just a free or earnable tier 6 science ship, this is a very, very serviceable option inside of the game. So in today's video, we'll go over the overview of how the ship compares to the general stats of science vessels in general, comparing it versus some specific ones that I consider noteworthy. Then I'll do my personal rant on some Risian stuff, because the new Risian Kit Frame that we're getting is ridiculously good for free to play and people that avoid the exchange entirely. And then we'll have the TLDR at the end of the video. I might talk about what's been going on IRL as well after that, if you're curious. I don't know. We'll see how much energy I have left. It's been a very tiring past few months, and especially this month, it's been pretty rough for me. Anyway, time links will be in the description, so you can skip around if you desire to. As for the new Risian ship, first off, like in previous summer events, you can use do the flying high activity to get your participation each day. Most of the other things are also available on Risa. I think they said on the stream, I didn't have a chance to read this actually, I'm just ranting at this point. They said on the stream that everything but sandcastles should ideally work for your daily progress for getting the summer ship. So besides making those sandcastles, most of the other things you do on Risa should work for the summer event, as long as you go to the summer instance of Risa. As for science vessels in general, remember the vast majority of them have this exact same mastery package, and this ship's not going to be any different. 15% exotic damage, extra shield, some shield resist, and extra shield regen per 6 seconds, and an extra 10% healing. Science vessels, I didn't change some things here, but one of the things to keep in mind here is, for most of the starships in the game, there's 6 subclasses. One of the subclasses is your standard science vessel. You can keep in mind, standard science vessels are like 2/3 of all science vessels in the game. So these stats are not going to be that different from what you're going to be really seeing from average science vessels. So don't really consider that too significant. The problem with standard science vessels, frankly, is that most of them can't use dual cannons. Some can. It's weird, like the not cool science vessel can. I don't get why. They don't get hangar bays, and they don't get radar flanking, but they still only have 6 weapons. So for most players in the game, they consider science vessels relatively weak versus other ones. But keep in mind, they also, because they're just a standard vessel, they're more able and have permission to be able to have a lot more flexibility in terms of a lot of the specialization seating. That's why the Vern, for instance, is a regular science vessel. It's got one of the best bridge officer layouts in the game, frankly, for side DPS. And this new ship here is very, very good as well. And I'll talk about with the Vern as well. If you wanted to go pure side DPS, you would have what, 9 science abilities that potentially to use for DPS. The Vern only has 10. Well, the ideal one is that you have it's ensign engineering and lieutenant tactical, so you would have a lot of extra stuff. For this ship, you're basically just losing a 3rd lieutenant commander ability, basically. For the stats, I am very impressed with this ship. It's got respectable hull, good shields, and its turning inertia and impulse are really high. As you can see here, versus the average for science vessels, it's very high. It's just that it's a smidge lower for the average hull. Whoop-de-doo, it's fine. It's meant to be a faster ship. Faster ships should have a little bit lower on the stats. and it really doesn't. It's just a little bit lower hull. A lot of your science ships anyway, you're expecting anywhere between have a 0.9 and 1 hull for the hull ratio. I am perfectly fine with this ship, and especially for budget science, as I mentioned in the budget builds 2020 video. As long as you have 3 tactical consoles, budget science is perfectly fine. And once you get the high end anyway, like 1 to 2 tactical consoles is all you need, because you use melee clicky consoles for side DPS anyway. So the consoles doesn't matter quite as much as other ships. As for Starship Comparisons themselves, of course the first slide is going to be Risian starships, because I mean it's a summer event. I'm comparing it, to be fair, to the event versions of the ships instead of the fleet version of the Risian Corvette, because that one's a little bit stronger in my opinion. Maybe not for DPS, but for tanking it's way stronger. The Risian Corvette's way faster, frankly. I mean, it is the fastest ship in the game. It is tier 6 version. Made it go faster, so that it really was the fastest ship by a mile. The Risian Luxury Cruiser, I'm guessing we're going to be getting a tier 6 version of that next summer. Honestly, for a bridge offer scene, it's a very solid ship, frankly, by the way. It's not bad. Other ships, frankly, are better at tier 5 view, but most of the other tier 5 views are also gone because there's the tier 6 versions now. The ship is still fine. When we start comparing it versus the other science ships that from other events that wasn't the Vulcan Raider that we got, it's about what you're expecting: 1 commander's seat, 1 lieutenant commander's seat, and 3 lieutenant seats. So I am actually fine with the way that this ship is. It's not out of, it's not weird in terms of its bridge offer scene. It's what I'm saying. Now, frankly, its base stats are like completely better than the Lucari ship. So there is that. If you have the Lucari ship and this one, maybe you don't find the Lucari ship, which is sad because I like the Lucari ship's bridge. But anyway, of course, when we consider fast ships, these two for science are the ones that immediately come to mind. The Vulcan experimental ship from promo packs, and then the Orbital Temple Raider from the Sea Store. For a long time in the game, before we got Raiders and other faster ships, generally speaking, the Orbitos and the Eternal were a lot of the ones you saw in PvP in terms of for science. And because this ship, I mean, the Orbitos, even though it doesn't have a secondary reflector, which does hurt its damage, you're still able to do commander science. Like, you could do full science on that ship if you wanted. Just fine. And with molecular reconstruction, it enhances science more. So you are getting a bit of extra stuff, despite the fact that you don't have a secondary deflector. So if you want a budget experimental scout vessel, the Ouroboros is a very, very solid, cheap alternative in the Sea Store. The Vulcan experimental scout vessel is the only science ship with commander pilot. There are 2 other ships with pilot seating, to my understanding, which is the Dinakul Demosh, which has a lieutenant pilot, as well as the legendary Voyager, which also has a lieutenant commander pilot. The Demosh, you pick that if you want the console that comes with the ship, because it's one of the best survival consoles in the game, frankly. The Sono Command Science Vessel, I've loved this ship for a long time as well. People are just starting to realize how good the trait is, and so it's going for ridiculous prices on the exchange on PC right now. Still a great ship as well, and both of these ships are really fast. Faster than this one, even though its movability is slightly lower. It is what it is. Of course, we have the 2 other Science Raiders in the game, which in this game are called Scout ships, that have almost full commander or full bridge officer universal seating besides the commander seat, which is completely fine. They have access to those things. As you can see here, generally with Raiders, their stats go lower than the average ship in order to get that higher maneuverability. The Risian ship is still respectable in terms of its maneuverability, and it still has the 1.45 shield ratio. So it's still good in that regard. I know a lot of you fight the Borg most of the time anyway, so your shields don't matter as much. So its hull is in the same rough range anyway. Of course, I mean, versus other ships, I mean, your faction variant of the Temporal Operative Science Vessel, that was in the MUD's time stealing bundle or off of the exchange, is one that most people think about when it comes to some of the optimal DPS for science. I personally like the Legendary Voyager and the Eternal more because I'm a tank player, and they both have really strong stuff for tanking. But in terms of DPS, this is one of the best options, and it is faster than the Risian ship. So those are still going to be an upgrade versus this one by a mile. The Fleet Nautilus is a tier 2 military science vessel from the fleet. Unfortunately, there is no KDF version of the Nautilus. Hopefully, Cryptic adds one in the future because it is a great ship. Used to be talked about a ton until the Vern got its buff, and now the Nautilus is never talked about anymore. It is what it is. Of course, we have the Eternal and Voyager, which I feel are the best tanking science vessels in the entire game, because they both have unique consoles to their ships that make tanking a lot easier. The Eternal has a taunt console, one of the few in the game. Intrepid has an additional console right now, and it's got a blade of armor, which gives you the highest bonus damage resistance rating of any console in the entire game. It boosts you up to 90% resistance right off the bat, just from the clicky itself. So, and both of them have really good bridge offseam versus this ship. Again, the Risian ship, especially for an event ship, but in general, like just a ship in general, this is a great ship. Okay, don't get me wrong. This is a fantastic ship. I'm just slightly less excited about other things. The console, the neutronic eddy generator, gives you extra drain and aux power. It's active. Seems a lot similar to the Maquis Raiders tornado console, except that it's 4 tornadoes that does shield drain and radiation DOT. It says affected foes are jostled in a storm according to the description. They never really showed that off really on stream. But they did say on the stream that the emphasis was shield drain with some radiation DOT. Which means that, other things that affect shield mean that your torpedo DPS should be able to go a little bit higher when you have someone on your team that's doing this. Ideally, I mean, draining builds haven't really been as much in the meta as it has been in the past. Who knows? Maybe something like this will help that to come back a little bit. The trait is electrifying anomalies. The description is basically saying that bridge after anomalies deal extra electrical damage and grant power boosts. On the stream, the way it's being affected in the game, at least in the stream, it said just to enemies within 5 kilometers of anomalies get severe, whatever severe means, severe electrical damage per second, which is good. The other portion is that to allies within 5 kilometers get an additional 30 to all power levels. I think people are going to be sleeping on that because depending on how that works and how it may or may not stack with other electrified anomalies traits, this could make psi energy completely viable. I mean, it was already good and fun. This could basically mean that even on console, if you had like 4 or 5 of you all using electrified anomalies, you don't have to worry about your power levels because, oh yeah, everyone's got 120 to 150 extra power. Well, everyone's already at max power because they're using anomalies all the time and they're staying within 5 kilometers of each other. This is a major boost to a lot of those playstyles. I'm also going to say, I mean, this is great for tanks too, because if you have a science player in your group for sure, hey, you get to get some extra power for free, essentially. I don't know if this is going to be, one of the meta DPS science traits because of the power aspect. I think they added that just so they could say, this isn't just going to be a spore-infused anomalies 2.0. Because the power budget is going to be split between that damage as well as that extra power to your team. Again, because I don't know how this is going to be stacking and whether this can actually affect your own ship. I don't know how particularly good that power aspect is going to be. Depending on how it is, and if it stacks with other players with electrifying anomalies, you might actually see people change their skill trees to not even add power anymore. If this is super meta for the damage anyway, and the power is still really good. We will see. We will see. People are definitely going to try this out and see if it's really good, or if it's just a meh okay trait. Generally, for a lot of ships in the past from events, typically with the anniversary ship, it was like either the trait or the console was really good, and everything else was kind of meh. This is a good serviceable ship with potentially a really nice serviceable console and traits. So this is a big steal, frankly, for this. I'm really glad now, because of how horrible my July was, that this was pushed back a month, so I actually can enjoy the summer event. But you know, I know not all of you agree. As for the new Risian summer items, I might spend more time on this than the Starship, because we got a new kit frame. But that in just a moment. Obviously, there's the cosmetic stuff. Yay, a new baseball team. Utopia Plantation should work bees. New vanity shield. New band t-shirts. Floors and power boards. This is what I care about. I don't care about this. I care about this. Sorry, there is some cosmetic things I care about in the game. Normally the Risian stuff I don't care about. We got a new kit frame. Now, for those of you who are like, but we get new kit frames all the time. Okay. Exclude kit frames from lockboxes. When was the last time we got a new kit frame inside of this game? Like, seriously. And if I was going to play, the Jeopardy music, the last time we got a new kit frame that wasn't from lockboxes was from the Fleet Colony. To put this in perspective for you all, that happened before this channel existed. So that was a while ago at this point. Like, I can't believe this channel has been going for, technically, I think I've passed the 2-year point now, I think, of me putting videos on YouTube now, even though it wasn't consistent 2 years. I put now looking back, horrible survival guide. I got a ton of feedback that was awesome, and I've gotten way better since I made my first videos on YouTube, which is fantastic. But why am I excited about the Risian Kit Frame? Basically, when it comes to really budget, especially if you're budgeting, you're not going to be including the exchange stuff at all. There's only a couple kit frames really to choose from, frankly. There was the Undine one. Okay, bonus damage versus Undine. Whoop-de-doo, very few maps have the Undine. There's the Romulan kit frame, which gives you which is very good for plasma DPS in ground. Cool. What if I don't want to do plasma? Okay, now I'm stuck going to the Fleet Colony to get Kintari kit frames. If you consider that budget, you might not. Which then, there's not really a great option left for you. Risian Kit Frames basically says, if you want to do any type of damage in ground, you can choose me. You want to do science? You can still choose me. You want to do weapon damage? You can still choose me. This is why I am so liking this kit frame. It's definitely not going to be meta. I like if they, of course, if they made both weapon damage stupidly high, maybe it's decently meta for some niche weapon DPS. But you're getting a bonus to your weapon damage for each Risian kit module that you equip, and whenever you use Risian kit modules, you have a chance to cause the effects of a random Risian module. They worded it that way so that it wouldn't cause your other Risian kit modules that might have that effect going off to immediately go on cooldown. Okay? It basically means if you're using a full suite of Risian kit modules, you're basically going to be getting the effects of free kit modules as you're just using your kits, and you're just doing weapon damage alongside that too. And your weapon is going to do more damage because you have those rising modules. Alongside that, they added 2 more universal kit modules, so that to round it out, there's 3 kit modules for each profession and 3 universal kit modules. So basically, for your captain, whatever captain you have, there's 6 kit modules to choose from to fill out your 5 kit module slots if you want to maximize the damage off of this kit frame. I personally recommend, if you're going to do this route, going 4 and add Paradox Bomb, just so that enemies stay within the AoE of a lot of these Risian kit modules. And then boom, you have basically every profession as well can basically get a version of what science captains could basically do and have been able to do for a long time in this game in ground combat. I might actually change my fun and engineering ground build to a Risian build because I really love science ground stuff. That's why most of my captains are science in this game, because I like being able to do this in ground combat because I can just click all of my kit abilities and the enemies just die and I don't have to worry about it. Now, when it comes down to budget, obviously this was what I've been recommending for a while. You'll still want the not cool shield and minigun, but now you don't have to use the Risian Kit Frame and armor anymore. You don't have to. And as for science stuff, my recommendation for a long time for side DPS and ground is Paradox Bomb from the temporal spec, Anti-Time Entanglement from the temporal reputation, Seismic Agitation Field from the summer event, which is basically right now, Endothermic Conduction Field from the winter event, and Cold Fusion Flash from lockboxes. If you don't care about lockboxes stuff as much and want to avoid that, you can replace that with like Frictionless Particle Grenade, something else that I'm overlooking, or if you want more survival, you can add Medical Tricorder, which is what I typically do. So I normally replace Anti-Time Entanglement with Medical Tricorder for the Medical Vanguard thing for science to synergize with that. But what you could also do, if you want to do Paradox Bomb plus 4 science or 4 kit modules, for the science option, Seismic Agitation Field is ridiculously good. Basically, any science ground build should be using that, by the way, in my opinion. You can add Sonic Disruption for a nice interrupt, plus Floors, Lava, and Ball Lightning. They both sound good. Maybe they're not, but they sound decent. As for the other professions, I've just listed all of the profession and universal ones for your three professions in the game. For tactical, I really like Graviton Spike a lot. I think it's really good. Granted, I think Corrosive Grenade and Magmatic Deployment aren't particularly good. I mean, Magmatic Deployment does decent DPS, but you're basically stuck in melee. It's a decent cast time, and enemies can run away from you still. First, you know, something like Seismic Agitation Field, which you can cast from a decent distance, and enemies are pulled in. So your other stuff can do a lot more damage. You know, and engineers have an ability called Molten Terrain for the summer event. If you're trying to be a pseudoscience, Molten Terrain is actually pretty good when it comes to damage. So don't count that out. It's actually decent damage. Now that we've got other Risian stuff, this build's actually decent. At least to my understanding from how Floors, Lava, and Ball Lightning are going to be working. Floors Lava is basically a cross-faction version of Exothermic Conduction Field from the way that it's kind of worded, plus there's a knock-up if they're right in the middle. And Ball Lightning is, it sounds like you place it down and it does a nice electrical damage and shield drain if enemies are too close. So you do some of your abilities, you run up to them, place down Ball Lightning to get rid of their shields, and then they die a lot easier. Anyway, this is the set that I would recommend for a lot of you all if you want to consider some potential kit modules to synergize with the Risian Kit Frame. Obviously, Paradox Bomb and Frictionless Particle Grenade from those 2 other specializations don't, add to the Risian Kit Frame, but they do have good cross-faction control on the battlefield. So if you're trying to do a sciencey type of playstyle, those 2 aren't bad to choose to make it so that your Risian stuff can do more damage. And again, if you want to do full kit based, My recommendation is to use the Temporal Defense Armor for extra DOT damage, and then the Sompek 2-piece of Shield and Weapon. The 2-piece gives you extra kit readiness. The weapon has a tertiary attack that not only does damage immediately around you in a PB AoE, but it also does a heal to you, and an AoE heal as well. So basically, especially if you want to be a science captain and don't want to equip medical tricorder or want to heal on an engineer or tactical like that, you can equip that 2-piece and you have that heal as well. It's from Phoenix prize packs, but you claim the shield and the blast assault, and then it's freely account reclaimable from the lithium store or from the event reclaim tab in ground. So it's not really that bad. CRM 200 is a really nice control weapon. You can use any other weapon though, frankly, with the Risian Kit Frame, because it'll boost all weapon damage, not just a particular type. So again, this is from my budget builds video. You can see that if you want to go into more detail on that. As for TLDR, we have a new Risian Weather Control ship. The stats are really nice. It's basically it's almost like a mid-range between a regular science vessel and a science raider. It's kind of like it's blending the two in terms of a lot of its base stats, but it doesn't have raider flanking nor any unit universal seating besides a lieutenant commander seat. For an event ship, especially for an event science ship, it's fantastic. For DPS, it's not going to be as good as the Science Raider, the Vulcan Science Raider we got for a while ago. If you have that and are like, I only want damage, this isn't going to be impressive to you, but it's a fun new free ship that, hey, if you're new to the game, and if you want to do science anyway in space, this is a really nice ship to get, especially with the trade console. You're probably going to want to use them on budget stuff. The trait, people are probably going to call it Spartan Fuse Anomalies 2.0. I imagine it's going to be a little bit weaker than that trait, because it also has the secondary effect of being able to give your allies within 5 kilometers extra power as well. The console does 4 little shield drain tornadoes. It reminds me of Maki Raiders tornado console. Except it's going to be doing less damage and more focus on shield drain. There's new cosmetic stuff with the new baseball team that they've added, some band t-shirts, some new colors for power boards and floaters, and the Van Shield with that new baseball team, and then a vanity pet and ground device. For the non-cosmetic stuff, the new Risian Kit Frame, if you're doing budget ground stuff, I would wager it's probably just about the best kit frame in the game for ground combat that's outside of the exchange, unless you're going with plasma DPS and ground. If you're doing basically anything else in ground, the Risian Kit Frame is going to be your best budget kit frame inside of the game for ground combat. Just throwing that out there. Just because it gives you extra weapon damage for every Risian module equipped, and whenever you use Risian Kit modules, you have a chance for a random Risian module effect to happen. So because of how that's worded, it shouldn't make your other Risian Kit modules go uncooled if that random effect is one of the kit modules you actually have equipped. It could be Risian module effects that you don't have equipped either, and even ones you can't possibly get for your profession. So yeah, with the Risian Kit Frame, you could randomly have seismic agitation fields go off as a tactical or engineering captain. You could have Graviton Spike be activated for your weapon as an engineering or science captain. There's some great stuff with this kit frame. Hopefully more people talk about this. But again, because most people care about space, unfortunately, I think this is unfortunately going to get overlooked way too much. This should be talked about a lot more in the community. And Crypto should be praised, frankly, for adding this to the game and not having this be another thing in lockboxes. The 2 kit modules, Floor is Lava, seems like a cross-profession exothermic induction field. Ball Lightning is an AoE shield ring. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, hopefully that was interesting scene for you all, and informative. Work has been busy for me. You can go ahead and go to Facebook if you want to see a post talking a little bit about the situation that I have been in during this past month. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to talk about in terms of the particulars as to how stressful it's been at work. But that article is public, which is why I have that article there to direct you to. Go to the end of the article, and then factor in that I've been assisting with dealing with that particular issue. And that's why my time has been very limited. And yes, I've been doing a lot of overtime because of this particular situation, which is why I haven't had time for STO too much. In fact, I haven't had time for STO too very much in the past few months. For the most part, my time has been log in, do the event, answer questions that I see on social media, and that's basically it. Which is kind of unfortunate. Apparently, there was some drama with Black Lives Matter, which unfortunately, didn't realize wasn't really a thing until Timberwolf went on a rant on Twitch about it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should look more into what this actually is, because I've been so busy, frankly, with either making these videos when I had time, my very limited time, and other things that I was like, well, I'm definitely out of the loop. Definitely people have been going crazy during the pandemic, which I guess makes sense. People are going to react to this stuff differently. Again, try to stay safe and stay healthy. I've got a bit of a cold now. It is what it is. Thank you all for watching. I doubt this video is going to do as well as the other ones because I haven't been doing videos for like a month now. But yeah, again, stay safe, stay healthy. There's going to be a special video next week. I can't guarantee that. I'm going to be putting in extra hours for doing some stuff to make sure that video comes out. It's a very special video to me. I've hinted at it on Twitter as well. It's going to come out. I don't know how long it's going to be or if there's going to be parts to it, but it's going to come out next week. Anyway, thank you all for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.